Unbelievable. It's already that time of year. It's not Christmas, but it is halftime or like 6 months into 2025. So we are talking about books with a coffee in hand. And the books we're talking about are my favorites so far in 2025. And as always, I would love to hear about yours. Just share those down in the comments now when the video is over, during whatever floats the boat. So let's start with the first one, which is a real fun one. My Lady Jane. I know I've talked about the Amazon show on and on and on again, but I got my grubby little hands on the book and I'm telling you, it has the same kind of humor and it is just the same sweet story. We follow Lady Jane Grey, who is to be married off to a stranger while there's a conspiracy to rob her cousin Edward of his throne. But she has bigger problem because she actually gets to be Queen of England. This story only has a minimal resemblance to actual history, but sometimes history needs a little bit of help. Hands down, this book is crazy, but you do leave with a feeling of loving the fact that you get to live in a world where women get to write and publish whimsical whack-ass books like this one. I find this book to be the perfect summer read if you need a book to take you far away to a kingdom where there's no logic and where people might turn into horses. Again, fun, whack-ass, whimsical book. Room on the Sea, which is a book that truly highlights what it will say to look at the small moments in life, what we think are the small moments in life, but which actually are the moments, the interactions, the feelings that accumulate and make our everyday life, like make the experience of what our life actually is. In the scorching New York heat, 100 people are waiting to be selected as jurors. Paul is reading his newspaper and Catherine is reading her novel. And so our story begins of two people who end up creating an illusion of going to an Italian getaway. They talk past, present, but not future, because this is nothing more than just a silly little crush. I can't say that I love Aciman's books, because I've only loved and read Call Me By Your Name. But when I saw Room on the Sea in a bookstore in London, it called to me. And what an adventure it gave. I'm a sucker for books that add magic to every day, and that's exactly what this book does. It's a book about how we can be touched and how we touch others when we allow it, but also when we don't even notice it. Like how you can't live as a individual that is not touched or perceived by other people. And as you can hear, this book is still kind of ruminating in my mind. I keep thinking about it, and I keep thinking about Paul and Catherine, because this book, it's such a nice view into the nostalgia of being old. And I'm saying that as someone who's 27, but being in those people's lives, seeing how they look at their own lives, it's just, I love it. It gives me a nostalgic feeling, honestly. Saying that in like the most dramatic way, but life is dramatic in that way. Like, it is the small moments that matters. It is what you do every day, and this book just highlights that so sweetly and nicely. Like, honestly I lost the plot with this one, like, or gained it maybe. So that was like my pinpointed thoughts on Room on the Sea. And yes, I can add it to the piles of Aciman books that I have read and loved now. Aid Valentine has a secret. He has fallen out of love with love. And since he's the host of the romance radio show in Baltimore, that's kind of a problem. But when a young girl calls in asking for dating advice for her mom, the interview goes viral. Lucius Stone thought she was doing just fine. She has a good job, a great family, and a slightly devious child. But when all of Baltimore is actually scrutinizing over her finding a romantic partner, she's starting to rethink if that is actually what she needs, what she is missing in her life. Because maybe a little bit of romance wouldn't be such a bad thing. Everyone wants Lucy to find love, even the temperamental, grumpy man that she's sharing the radio booth with. I nothing but love PK Borison's love stories, and this one was no exception. And I will say I can feel the fact that she has a couple of books behind her. It felt more refined, it felt more real, but it still held on to the rom-com feel, the lighthearted moments, and the fun. Not to be mistaken, there are still some wildly silly moments in this book, but I feel like the balance is really good in this book between the more serious, the fun, and the downright silly. And because in this story that I felt like really got around and got to know the characters, the more hard-hitting moments actually felt real, and they actually like hit something in me, and they were just again very well balanced with the very silly and the fun parts of this book. Have you ever wondered what goes on behind the closed doors at a therapist's office? Psychotherapist Josh Fletcher takes us on a candid, very human journey of 4 of his clients who go to therapy for the first time. He invites us into the inner thoughts of a therapist, from shock to sympathy to what it actually feels like to meet one of your clients on a messy night out. For every part of the book and for every issue that is taken up, he also comes with some very hands-on advice. This is both advice for the clients in the book, but also for the reader at home. He also spends quite a lot of time talking about how to find the right therapist, and that it is okay not to click with the first therapist you try and stuff like that, which can be very nice to hear for a lot of people. For someone who has been to therapy and is nosy as fuck, I couldn't put this book down. The stories of these clients and hearing them tell these stories, they were very dark, a lot of them, I will say. So brace yourself for that if you read this. I felt it could be very triggering for a lot of people, and I was not ready for quite some of the stories that we heard. But that said, I really, really loved hearing his thoughts while helping the clients, what he took with him to the next sessions, and so on and so on. It gave some insights to the human experience of life, but also just a very straight, if you are trying, you're doing your best. And who doesn't like to hear that? The Golden Raven, which is book number 5, and I have babbled for years and years on every social platform about this book series. So honestly, if you haven't read it yet, I don't know what to tell you at this point, and I also can't spoil anything from this one because that would also just be very cruel of me, to be honest. But that said, I know this series just isn't for everyone. It is quite a heavy read as well. It is mafia, it is kids on the run, it is kids being very mean to each other. So I would read trigger warnings if that is something that you would need to do before reading a book. But that said, this book is the purest form of book crack that I have ever read. I've read them so many times and I will never be able to let them down. So that's wrong wording. What I'm saying is I can never put them down when I'm reading them. So those are the kind of books that I read till 4 in the morning. Every time. Also when it's a 4th, 5th, 6th time reread. So if mafia and made up sports is your thing, join this side of the internet. To get back to more light and heartwarming genre, we're back with the rom-coms because I read Funny Story by Emily Henry, like the rest of the internet, and I loved it. I just did. Funny Story is a funny story. We follow Daphne, who was engaged to Peter, but he realizes he was in love with his best friend all along, Petra. So Petra breaks up with her boyfriend Miles as well, which ends up giving us Daphne and Miles moving in together because she doesn't know where else to go. She does have a dream job as a librarian, but because she moved for Peter, she doesn't have any friends or family here at all. Daphne and Miles has been trying desperately to kind of ignore each other even though they were living together in his apartment, but one day they decide to actually act like a couple, take photos and make Peter and Petra jealous. But the whole shenanigan just gets worse or better, depending on how you look at it, when Miles and Daphne kind of starts to develop feelings for each other, or at least not a game anymore. It is not so much maybe about winning back their ex-partners. I know, we're all living in Emily Henry's world, or I wish. Or maybe not actually. This book just got the job done, the job of making me giddy, making me laugh, making me... Can't even remember if I cried, but at least it still had those real moments of like, shit, where is my life at? What am I gonna do? How am I gonna solve it? And it just came with such a nice group of side characters as well that I just fell in love with instantly. Which is also one of the parts I want to highlight because I love Daphne's relationship with Ashley, her co-worker at the children's library. Just the way that it got so much airtime or like so much plot was I really like. Oh, my tripod just died. It just fell because it's so warm that nothing can hold up in this heat. And I live in Copenhagen, guys, Scandinavia. Amazing. I might even like this angle better than the one we've been rolling with. I kind of lost the thread, but I think we're just talking about how I loved Ashley and Daphne's relationship. It's a big part of why I like this book so much. I love the romance as well, but like the friendship part, a big part for me. The mega diva and star of Blackish looks back on her memorable journey to fame and the unforgettable life lesson that she learned along the way. Jenifer Lewis tells a story of how she, as a Midwestern girl who came from poverty, comes into Hollywood, into fame and Broadway in New York. It is a wild story and it is a page turner. I just call it a page turner, but I actually listened to the audiobook and it's Jenifer Lewis herself who narrates it, and to hear her words read by her was great. I just love it when it's like that with memoirs. A big part of the book is also her battle with dysfunction and her undiagnosed mental illness, and later when she got it diagnosed and how she dealt with that both pre, under, and I'm saying after, but more in a how she has learned to live with the ways her brain works. And that was very inspiring to read. I first saw Jenifer Lewis on Instagram actually. I saw an interview with her where she's spitting facts about how she broke up with, was it with her husband or her boyfriend? But at least she talks about having this joy of life looking at trees and him not seeing it at all. And I thought this is a woman that I would love to hear more about. So when I found this book, I would not stop. What really struck me with this memoir is, one thing is what she's learned, but how she was able to look at it while in it, and also of course after at some points, but to change the things she didn't like, didn't want, didn't need. That was really powerful, at least when it was set up in this way that this book was. So just her way of telling her story and both making it fun and interesting and as like just a woohoo story. There's so many layers to it, and her learnings was incredible to read. I just looked in these books because I bought them when I was in Los Angeles for 14 days, like almost 10 years ago now with school, which is an incredible sentence to say. But I looked at them because I was very annoyed that there's this sticker on them. So I thought, why, should I just sell them and get like new proper ones? I just realized they're first editions Hunger Games book, which really fits with me saying these books needs no introduction in my script. And to preface, they didn't have the first one. I did look very thoroughly for it in the thrift store where I bought them. I did say these books don't need an introduction, but it has come to my attention that not everyone on the internet has read these books. which to me is wild. I feel like there's steps to reading, and like to graduate you have to have read like the Hunger Games, which is like, I know that's wrong of me to say, but that's how I feel. So, but like everyone knows what they're about, but now I'm gonna tell you to read them if you haven't, because I got so surprised. Even though I knew they were well written, one thing is the story, another thing is like the whole world of it, and then you have Katniss as the main character. But just the fact they're YA, fucking well-written books, like they're far between books like this for young adults. Even though it's not even a young adult book, I would say. It is just a glorious book. As you can sense, I am very much loving these. I reread them so I could be able to read the new Susan Collins book, which I am halfway through, so I can't mention it here or say anything yet. But so far, so good. I'm very excited for the film as well. And then I thought about rewatching the films too. So I'm not done with my Hunger Games era at all, like my revival of this story. So this was a reread, not a new read, just so we were completely clear here. Now we have 3 Danish books. One is actually Swedish, but at least has been translated into Danish. But I think it's very important to like broaden the horizons, and hopefully these books will be translated to English. So now you will heard about them if they do get translated, and then I will probably never stop talking about them if they actually do get translated. Love Idiots, which is the title directly translated, and honestly, I think this is my favorite read this year so far. I loved every word, every sentence, every page of this book. 3 people whose fate meet because Gertrude 3 disappears. 3 people whose fate meets because Gertrude's chestnut tree disappears without a trace. That was such a hard sentence to me. Control is lost, keys are forgotten, doors are opened, and heart starts to beat so hard that the earth trembles in their small town. This is again one of those books with everyday kind of magic and actually a bit of actual magic, because like this tree does disappear and it's the only thing in the book that is truly magical. But then you just follow these 3 people, not 3 people, 3 people. You follow them and how their lives start to intertwine. And again, one thing is being stuck in your life and in your thought patterns, and what wonderful thing it can be to get disturbed by other people and their lives, and what we can create together. And again, I just love everyday kind of magic and also real magic. This one I just want to do a quick mention of because I did talk about it in another video that I will link. But this one is called Tove Ditlevsen was my grandmother. Tove Ditlevsen var min mormor. It is a story of generational trauma. It is a story about what we are passing down through generations, both the good, the bad, the ugly, and in this case it's a very real case of being able to look at it and these secrets coming out even after people have died. Very, very interesting read. I really loved it, even though it's a bit heavy, but that is the beauty of the books, that they can be both so insightful and heavy at the same time. The last book I will talk about, which is also a Danish book, is called We Are the Life We Live, Vi er det liv vi lever, by Svend Brinkmann. Back in 2028, psychologist and professor Svend Brinkmann got a letter from a woman about her life, and they ended up like being pen pals talking about life, and this is what this book is actually about. It is her life story, and we'll look at like her life, her full life. She's an older lady, but then Sven like takes it out as well. So we look at like how our lives are shaped by where we live, the time we were born in, the friends we have, the family we have, and it's just such a nice way where we have like the one story and then like him generalizing more, but then going back and forth between those two, that was just, oh, that was new to me, and I just loved the setup of it. So to sum it up, this book just really nicely showed that of like, how much can we shape our own life, how much is circumstances and choice actually, and I just really like that. So all in all, those were the books that had lodged themselves extra good onto like my mental shelves of books I can't stop thinking about, and I can't wait now to hear which book you have read that this year that like just stuck with you. So please share those down below with me so we can talk even more books, because what is life without books?